Hi there, everybody. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Sue. Can you hear any? Can you hear everything? Okay? Is the audio okay? And can everybody see everything? I'll wait for a few more people to come in. Hi, Nancy. Hi, Rick. Can everybody hear the audio? Okay. I just need to make sure that you can hear everything, and everything is clear on the video as well. Excellent, Nancy. Thank you. Hi, Becky. It's good to see you. Right, I'll just give it another couple of minutes because it's just turned 8 o'clock. So I want to wait and get as many people in as possible before I start. I've been kind of like, I've been planning this now for 2 days, writing up loads of notes and trying to make sure that I get everything right. And hopefully it'll be a good stream, and it'll be if you're new to pastels, you'll learn something, hopefully, even if you just take a little bit away from it. But I've got a lot of information to get through as well, a lot of different products to show. In fact, actually, I just need to get these out now before I start. Hang on. I think a few people wanted to know what pan pastels were. I think that's how this all started off. Whenever I put out like a tweet and a little bit of a notification that I was going to be holding this live stream tonight, a couple of people wanted to know what pan pastels were and if they were worth it. Oh, hi Rebecca. I'm so glad you're here. As you can see here, I've got Rebecca's in the chat room, and this is Rebecca's book, which I'm just showing you at the beginning, but I will be talking more about this book as I go through this live chat, because and I have a proper review of this book coming out next week. So I wanted to time it like that, so that I've done the live stream and then put the book review out next week, because I think if you're interested in pastels, it's always good to look around YouTube and stuff like that, and watch some fantastic pastel artists. But it's always good as well to get a book, whether you prefer digital or whatever. But it's always good and handy to have a book like this around, so that you can refer to it and read up the knowledge from like a proper pastel artist. So I'll wait till about 5 past, and then I'll just get started. Hi Tracy. Hi Linda. And this live chat will be going up on the YouTube as well, so that you'll be able to come back and watch it at a later date. And a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about tonight, including this book and nearly everything that I'm going to be talking about, there'll be links for it down below if you want to go across and take a look at it. And a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about as well, like the pastel pencils and things like that, I've done individual reviews of those, so I will have links for those as well down below, just in case you want to go across and see like a more comprehensive explanation of the actual product that I'm going to be talking about. Yeah, so I am. I can make it. I can try and make it a little bit smaller. I mean, like I'll be moving this. I'll be moving this over a little bit in any case. Yeah, Nancy, just doing that now. Right, I've just moved it all together, so you should see it move in a second. It'll just come away from the screen altogether. Okay, so I'll just... Right, okay. Right, I've just taken it down in any case. Okay, so listen, I'm just going to get started and get cracking on with this. Okay, so I put a tweet and a Facebook post out the other day about... Hi, Nichols. Yeah, Rick, I'll be going through all of that as well. Anyway, so I put a post out on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram about anybody's ideas about me wanting to do a live stream going forward, because the live streams that I've been doing up until now hadn't been really that great because the quality and all the rest of it. But I got a few extra bits which allows me to hook up my proper camera, which means that now I can zoom in and out, and whereas before I couldn't do that because of the because I was using webcams. But now that I've got that ability and the lighting's a little bit better and the audio's much better, hopefully going forward these live streams will be a lot more just a lot better and a lot easier for you guys to watch as well. So anyway, tonight I'm going to be talking about pastel pencils, soft pastels, hard pastels, the difference between them all, and the various different papers that you can get for them, what these different pastels looked like on these different papers, because one paper that I hadn't used was Velour. I ordered that the other day to make sure that I had some of it here with me tonight so that I can demonstrate it and show you the difference. Now, this book that I'm showing you here is a book I got, I think, just before Christmas. Rebecca sent it to us. This is Pastels for Absolute Beginners. I'll be talking about this book, going through the review and what have you, but I had dabbled about with pastels for about a year or so before I got my hands on this book, and so I kind of knew a little bit about pastels, but not that much. I'd done a couple of pastel drawings, but again, I think only 2 or 3, and they were mainly with pastel pencils. And so I wanted to learn more about them, and this book has just been fantastic. It goes into so much depth. It covers so many different areas that you would want to, get into when you were talking about pastels. And one of the reasons I got so interested in pastels is because when you look around and you look at some of the art that these pastel artists are creating, it's amazing. The level of detail that you can get in some of them, and then some of them are more abstract with just these beautiful, strong pigments, which is one thing that you get from pastels, certain pastels, especially soft pastels. The pigment strength in these pastels is just amazing. Now, I haven't got all of the pastels that I'm going to talk about tonight. I've got some of them, but not all of them. So I'll just be going through some of those in a second. So let me just move this out of the way. Okay, so like I was saying a second ago, there's three main different types of pastels. Okay, so you've got soft pastels, you've got hard pastels, and then you've got pastel pencils, and obviously, pan pastels as well, which I'll get to in a second. Pan pastels are slightly different. They're quite new. I'm sure you've seen them around. They look like little trays of makeup and stuff like that. But so soft pastels, the difference between the three main types is soft pastels are very pigmented. Now, if you're a color pencil artist or anything like that, you'll know that when they put the pigment in, they add binders into it, like gum arabic and things like that, to keep the pigment together so it doesn't just crumble, because pigment is essentially just powder. With soft pastels, it's primarily pigment with a little bit of binder in it. So when you get a soft pastel, you are getting very, very strong, beautiful pigments, which is why you tend to find that the likes of Unison, the Terry Ludwigs, even the Jackson's soft pastels, Sennelier, pastels like that are quite expensive, and that's because the pigment that's inside those is a lot more pigment than binder. Then you have like hard pastels, which is pastels like the inscribed pastels, which are certainly cheaper, and they come in like these little block forms. Now, I've got little pastels like this from Derwent as well, and Faber-Castell do a set like this, but Faber-Castell also have like a polychromos set, which is a level up from this. This is kind of like student, and then the Faber-Castell is kind of like more artist grade. But these little block pastels have their place because they allow pastel artists to get a lot of detail because of their hardness and the edge that you can get with them. But like I say, they don't hold as much pigment. Then after that, you have pastel pencils. Now, there's a whole range of pastel pencils. the likes of the Stabilo, Carbothello, a really popular range. I've also got the 76 set of the Caran d'Ache pastel pencils. But essentially the pastel pencils are a little bit like the hard pastels in that there's a lot of binder in them. But some of the pastel pencils, like the Caran d'Ache pencils, have got an awful lot of pigment in them, which makes the core a little bit softer. What a lot of people have problems with the pencils is that sharpening, trying to get them sharp, whether they're using a sharpener or whether you are going to use like a blade. I done a review not that long ago of this little thing that Caran d'Ache brought out. It's quite expensive for what it is, but it does the job, and it's actually designed for sharpening pastel pencils, because a lot of people tend to find that when you use a sharpener, the cord breaks off, and it's not very good. This pack that I had out here, this pack of soft pastels, is from Unison, and you'll see yourself when you first open a set. This is a set of I think this was the landscape set, but whenever I first started doing reviews, Unison sent me a little 18 starter set of 18, and you can see there, and I mean, like, when you think of the size of these, and these are really, really strong pigments inside these. It's I know sometimes they can appear a little bit pricey, but if it's something that you're looking to get into, a little starter set like this would be really good for you to start out with. So let me just put these away. Let me just take a look at the chat here so that I can see if any questions are being asked. Okay, no, I've got some oil pastels here. Hard pastels are not the same as oil pastels at all. And I'll show you the difference. Sorry. I'll show you the difference between oil pastels and like what I'm calling pastels here. When I get the papers out and I start doing the tests, these are very, very different. And this is only a cheap set. You can't get like much higher quality oil pastels, but they are very different, and I'll explain that in a second. The other set of pastels that I was talking about earlier on is the pan pastels. Now these pan pastels, like I say, they look like little makeup trays, and these are essentially just I don't think they're pure pigment, but there's concentrated pigment as you're going to get. And how you work with this or apply this is by getting hold of little applicators like this. Again, these look like makeup sponges. For more detail, you can get little applicators like this, and you put these little sponges onto it, and you apply it to the paper that you are using. To draw with, and that's essentially what you do. You just use these little pads and you draw with these. I had another little applicator around here to show you, but I can't remember where I've put it. Oh, here it is. This little thing here, which is obviously a lot more reminiscent of a pencil. Let me just zoom in on that now that I can zoom in. So this is a lot more reminiscent of a pencil, and so it can make applying these pan pastels a lot easier. but on the end here there's a little sponge. You can replace these. You get a little pack. You just replace them, because obviously they, you know, when you're using a certain color all the time, you can wipe them clean, but it doesn't always get the pigment off it completely. So there's those, and again I'll show you what these look like on certain papers in a second. So I'll just be talking and then switching back and forth to the chat to see if there's any questions. Right, okay. So I'm just going to get the papers and we'll talk about the papers a bit. Right, okay, so there's lots of different papers that you can use for pastels. I think probably one of the most well-known papers is Pastelmat by Clairefontaine. They come in lots of different colors, as you can see here. You can get different sizes like A4, A5. They have in between each piece of paper, you have this like grease-proof thing to protect your work. Like I say, they come in different colors. When you're ordering the pads, I don't know whether you can see here, just here in the top corner, it gives you an indication of the different colors that are in the pads. And like I say, you can get smaller pads as well. Now the texture of this paper, it looks smooth at first, but it's quite rough. And I think the best way to show you what the textures of these papers looks like is when I start applying the pastels to them. You'll be able to see. But with these papers, these pastel papers, that was a pastel pencil drawing that I'd done for one of the reviews. But with these papers, essentially what they're designed to do is to, because like if you're using soft pastels, they're very, very powdery and crumbly and stuff like that. The paper just grips hold of the pigment and keeps it on the paper, as opposed to using something like Bristol Smooth. If you were to use a paper like Bristol Smooth, you would get color on your paper, but you wouldn't be able to layer up and stuff like that the way you can do with Pastelmat. Some of the other papers that a lot of pastel artists use is I think it's called Ingres. Now I tried using this right at the very beginning when I first started out with pastels, and it's a much smoother paper. It looks a little bit ribbed, like there's lines going across it. And when I first started using it, I just couldn't get the grips with it. But if you look at some pastel artists like oh, forget his name. I'll have to remember his name. There's a couple of really excellent pastel artists on YouTube who use this paper and create some absolutely beautiful pieces of work with it. The other paper is this Velour. Now, if there's a pastel artist called Emma Colbert, she's from Northern Ireland as well. She's a phenomenal pastel artist, and also as well, this is like the the texture of this, whereas the other ones are like sanded paper, like a rough, coarse texture. This is like velvet, if you can imagine drawing on velvet. I've not actually used this myself yet, but that's because I just ordered it for today, to have it for today, to be able to demonstrate what these pastels are going to look like on this paper for you. And because it's so flimsy in terms of its thickness, all the other pastel artists that I've seen using this highly recommend mounting it on some sort of board, and that obviously stiffens it. I don't really know how to mount this type of thing or anything like that, but if you go to Emma Colbert's website, and I'll have a link for that down below as well, if you go to her website, she talks about how you can mount it. But I'll show you in a second what the pastels look like on this. The other papers are, going back to that Ingres paper as well. I have another couple of sheets here from Strathmore. This is the Strathmore 500 series, and this is 100% cotton, acid free again, but it's very thin paper. This is their 400 series, and then I have another sheet from Canson as well, so I'll be showing you those. The other paper is from UART. Now UART is a really popular name, and this is basically like drawing on sandpaper. Let me get these sheets out for you. So this is the UART sanded paper, and it comes in different grades. So if you can see there, that says 280. This one here says 320, 240, 600, 800, and 400. The higher the number, the smoother the paper. So when you get down to this like 230, it's really, I mean, it feels like you could use it to sand a bit of wood down with. And it's funny how, you know, they've got these grades on the back of it, just like you would find with sandpaper as well. So I'll be showing you some of that in a second with the pastels. And then there is this Lux Archival. Now this is quite new. This is from Aliona Nicholson. She brought this paper out. Originally this paper was to go with coloured pencils and the brush and pencil kit that Aliona brought out for blending pencils. That's a whole different thing, but this paper is perfect as well for pastels. It's strange because it has a kind of like a sanded surface, but it's very, very soft, and so it works really, really well. All right, okay, Rebecca, that's really handy. I've never so on the back of this like Ingres paper, you would use the back side of it, rather than the kind of rib side. Colin Bradley, that's the pastel artist who uses this paper. I think he's got his own brand of it now, but he uses this paper, and like I said, you know, when I first started using it, I thought I could never use pastels on this paper. I can't get anything onto it. But when you watch the likes of Colin Bradley and Rebecca, who uses this paper, you'll see for yourself the amazing results that people can get with it. And finally, not that long ago, I done a review of this Clairefontaine paint on paper. It's kind of like a mixed media paper. They sent me this like A5 size, and I loved it so much that I went out and got the A4 size. But I tested it using pastels, and I was really surprised at how well the paper took and holded the pastels. Now, one thing that I didn't do, and I need to kind of like go back over and amend that review, was because I didn't put a lot of layers down on the pastel. So I just put the pastel down and rubbed it and stuff like that, seen how well it smudged out. And what I should have done was tried to layer it, because obviously that's key with pastels as well. But some pastel artists can use mixed media paper, so that's why I've got this, and I also got some Strathmore mixed media paper as well, because with it being mixed media, you're supposed to be able to use anything on it. It does have a much smoother surface than proper pastel paper, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a sheet of these various different papers, and then I'm going to show you what like the soft pastels will look like on them, the hard pastels, and then I'll take a selection of pastel pencils, and we'll talk about the pastel pencils in a little bit more in depth at the end of it. So I'll keep this 200 and this 800. So I'll keep those two out. I'll keep this velour the way it is. I'll get a sheet of this Lux Archival out as well. Incidentally, Rebecca, have you used, if there's any pastel artists in the chat at the minute, I know obviously Rebecca's here, have any of you tried to use this this new Lux Archival paper for your work? I'd just be interested to. It's quite thick, but you'll see in a second the type of results that I get from it. So, and this is the Ingres paper, so I'll get a... Now, one of the really good things about, if you're a colored pencil artist, you will know that when you're drawing and things like that, it's impossible to put light onto dark. So if you've got like a dark surface and you need to get like some white highlights, you've either got to use 9 times out of 10 something that's non-archival, like gel pens or something like that, or leave a piece of paper white. Well, one of the really nice things about pastels is that you can add light highlights on top of dark, like a dark surface that you've done. I'm just going to select a nice color here from this Pastelmat. So we'll put these others away. Okay, so to kick us off with the soft pastels, I've got some what I would call probably student grade, and that's the Koh-I-Noor extra soft pastels. So I'll use these, and I'll use the Unison, which are really high quality. I know a lot of pastel artists use these, especially here in the UK. I know that the likes of the Terry Ludwigs, and isn't there's an American brand, I think it's called All American Art or something like that. They're supposed to be really soft as well, and I would love to try and get a set of those to try. Let me just check on the chat as well. Hi Mary. Yes, I'm going to do some more. I have a little set of oil pastels. They're not like high quality grade oil pastels, but I picked them up just so that I could demonstrate and show people the difference between oil pastels and ordinary pastels. So so I've got some Unison pastels there as well. Okay, so so the first paper that I'm going to test is the let me see, let me get a good view of this. Okay, so the first paper that I'm going to show you a little bit of a test of is the Pastelmat. Now, like I say, this is I'm going to use the Unison first, which is really soft pastel, highly pigmented, a lot less binder in these than what there would be in, say, like the hard pastels, which is these ones here. These are Faber-Castell hard pastels, but they're not the Polychromos range, which are a little bit more pigmented than these. But so if I just do a light application here, you can see hopefully you can see the texture that it leaves. Let me just move it over a little bit there. There, you can see the texture that it leaves. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the Koh-I-Noor soft pastel. Now again, it's the same type of pastel, but it's a cheaper pastel, so it's not as pigmented as what you would find with the Unison. I'll just do this other Unison here. This is a green, and I'll just do a couple of little light strokes of that, and then I'll put a much darker application down as well. So now I'll do the Koh-I-Noor. So I'm just putting a heavy application down, and then a light application. And then with these Polychromos, or sorry, Faber-Castell hard pastels, I'm just putting the light application and then a heavy application. But that helps to show you a little bit of the texture of the paper. I do have some Derwent hard pastels as well. Now again, these are these came in like a mix set of these and pastel pencils. I don't even think Derwent do that set anymore, where they mix them up. But nevertheless, I'll put this down as well. Right, so I'll do the pencils later because I want to crack through this. The next, so that's the Pastelmat, and you can see there how well that grips hold of that pigment and just keeps it where it is. The next test I'm going to do is on, this is the Lux Archival from Aliona. Just let me zoom out slightly. So again, I'm going to do this this green unison. And you can see there that again the texture of the paper once the pigment of the pastel is down, you can see the texture of the paper a lot better. I'm just taking some of these pastel. If you talk to like a proper pastel artist, which I wouldn't class myself as a pastel artist, but if you talk to them, they say to you that the first thing you should do is when you get your set of pastels and they look gorgeous and they're all sat inside that little box that you've just bought and spent a lot of money on, the first thing that you should do is just get them and break them all up, and then that'll kind of like take away this preciousness that we all have about our products, our pencils and what have you. Anyway, this is the Koh-I-Noor. Again, it's a soft pastel, but it's it doesn't have as much pigment in it than say the Unison or the likes of the Sennelier or the Terry Ludwigs. And then with the harder pastels, this is the Faber-Castell, not the Polychromos range. But you can see there, that's just like a light application. When you're using papers like this, I find that if you sit and you rub this paper with your finger, like if you're gonna smudge the pastels, you can hear my finger rubbing on that paper, and because it's like a sanded surface, after a while it does begin to hurt a little bit. I'm sure seasoned pastel artists will not have that problem, but I'm sure they did whenever they first started out. So the next paper is the UART. Now I selected two different grades here for you. So this is like the low grade, the very sanded section, and then this one here is the 800, which isn't. There you go. This is the 800, which isn't as coarse. So I'll just put that down here, and again I'll just start off with this green. You might even be able to hear this with the microphone. Another unison, this unison blue. Again, the Koh-I-Noor. This is what I'm doing here is one of the really good things about having, if you're a pastel artist and say you want to do portraiture or something like that, having these soft pastels for like the big areas and all the rest of it, and filling in it. The fact that you can just break it down into chunks like this and cover large areas with it is obviously advantageous. And then you have your pastel pencils where you can go in and do a little bit more detail. I'm just going to flick over here to the chat and see. So I'm sure Nancy and Sue are already answering questions, but if there's any questions that I miss, if Nancy and Sue could just help us out and help answer them. If not, just attract I will see them in the end. Okay, so here's one here. Let me try and oh, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't translate that one. Sorry, Lizzie. Wow, there's a lot of people. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming on to the chat. I'm really pleased you all made it. Thank you so much. Anyway, I'll crack on here. If you've got any questions, just ask away, and I will see them. So they are the two soft pastels. So the blue and the green here is the Unison, which is kind of like the higher quality. Then this one here is the Koh-I-Noor, and then we've got the hard blocks here, which is like the Derwent. And you can see there. And this one here is the Faber-Castell. But you can see the difference. This is the UART, and this is the 280 grain, so that's quite coarse. And then again, this is the same company, UART, and this is the 800, so this is much softer. So I will put these down, and then I'll compare them side by side so that you get to see them. So there's the Unison green, the Unison blue. This is the Koh-I-Noor, and then I'll put a heavier application of that down. This is the Derwent hard pastel. This is the Faber-Castell. So if I just slip this back slightly, you can see there the difference. So the bottom one, this one here, is the UART 280, which is much coarse, and the top one here is the UART 800. So there's quite a difference in the paper grades. Now the next one I'm going to show you is the Ingres paper. Okay, sorry, it might go out of focus here for a second. Now Rebecca says that she uses the back side of these papers, and I've heard others say that as well, that sometimes using the back side of the paper is better. But I'm just going to show you what the texture of the paper looks like, and the best way to do that is to put some pigment on the paper. So this is the Unison, and that's just a light application of the Unison. Where'd my green Unison go? Sorry. This is the green Unison. So you can see what I mean there about the lines that come underneath it, that you can see the grade, the pattern on the paper. I'll put a heavy application down as well. So there's a much heavier application of the Unison, and I guess with paper like this, when you smudge it, it's gonna cover in much better. You can see there that completely covers in all the gradient and stuff like that that's on that paper. This is the Koh-I-Noor, so I'll just put like a light application of that down, and then a much heavier application. So again, you can see the pattern. Let me just zoom in so you can get a slightly better. Okay, so you can see the texture of the paper underneath there on the lighter applications. Okay, and then I'll this is the Derwent, the hard pastel. And then this is the Faber-Castell. And again, you can see but like I said, one of the advantages of this type of paper is being able to just smooth out that pigment a lot easier than what you can do on some of the others. Now, the next paper I'm going to show you here is this Velour. I've not used this before, so this is new to me as well. Okay, so when I've watched the likes of Emma Colbert and stuff like that, this is the paper that she uses, and she loves this. I think because it's a softer surface, it can sometimes take the pigment a lot easier. Anyway, so wow. So that's I'll zoom in a second and let you see this. That's the Unison, and that's just a light application. That's the Unison green, and then I'll put a heavy application. Wow, that's odd. This is the Koh-I-Noor. And then the hard pastel, which is this Derwent. Right, so it.
Maybe a lot of people doing stuff like that, right?
Huh?
Maybe there's a lot of people online and Friday night, it's quiz night at the minute.
Right, guys, sorry. Can you hear me again? I don't know what happened there. I think I just got a sign up saying OBS had disconnected and was reconnecting, so I think it's back up and running. Right, okay, so can everybody still hear? No idea why that happened. Anyway, I'm using this, these tests that I've just done is on this Velour paper, and so I'm just zooming in slightly to let you see how this, how it looks. So you can see that because it's got this velvety surface, this velvety texture, it gives the pigment like this real misty appearance, which is, you know, I don't really know. It's up to personal preference really, but I think it looks really nice. And one thing that I did notice is when I was using the pastel on it, the soft pastel, especially the Unison, it only took a very, very light touch for the pigment to actually, you know, get on the paper, which was really nice. So let me just zoom out slightly here. And the next paper I'm going to try is this Strathmore mixed media paper. Now, with it being mixed media, it has a much, much softer surface. And I'm going to use this blue Unison first of all. this is a little bit scratchy, this one, and I'll use this green one as well. And then the Koh-I-Noor. And I'm just going to rub this in just to see. And then add some more to it. Let's see if I can add another layer to that. So, okay, so this is, like I say, the Strathmore mixed media. And obviously with it being mixed media, you should be able to use anything on it. And it seems to take this pastel really, really well. I've just put 3 layers on there, rubbed it in, and, you know, it looks really well. It's a very, very smooth surface, so it's not really what I expected. With the hard pastel, this is a Derwent one. So, and then this is the Faber-Castell one. I'm actually really quite impressed with how the pastel works there on the mixed media paper. Now, what I did want to show you is the oil pastels. Okay, so a lot of people were asking me, are the oil pastels the same as like the soft pastels, hard pastels, or the pan pastels? And the short answer to that is no. They're completely different mediums. Really, really, just chalk and cheese, really. Let me see if I can demonstrate it well enough here on this. Okay, let me see. I'll use this green, this dark green. Okay, so this is an oil pastel. Now you have to understand this is a very cheap oil pastel. I am sure that if you got like the Caran d'Ache Neo Color 1, which is an oil pastel as well, you would see a very, very stark difference between the two. But these, when you rub them in, you can, I'll zoom in a second, you can see a little bit of bloom happening there, and that's down to the oil content that's inside these. So let me just move this over a little bit, and let me zoom in for you. Okay, so for those of you that wanted to know about oil pastels, they are very, very different. If you start layering up here, if I like put a lot of pressure on this, you can see the oily consistency that's inside the pastel, as opposed to the powdery consistency of ordinary like soft pastels, hard pastels, that type of thing. So let me just check the chat and see if there's any questions again. Yeah, that's very true. The drying of these, I'm sure, would take an awful long time, and probably you would never get them to dry completely. If you go across to, say, the Caran d'Ache website, or sorry, their YouTube channel, they have oh, hi May. If you go across to the Caran d'Ache YouTube channel, they have a load of videos demonstrating a lot of their products, and one of the videos that they have is of their Neo Color 1, which is the oil pastels that they have. They've got Neo Color 1, Neo Color 2, and the Neo Color 1 is all oil, and they use like stones and things like that, or clay pots, to use the oil pastels on, because you can put them on, rub them down to like a very smooth surface, and the pigment will stay on the stone or the clay pot and stuff like that. So, and they use they use them for all these excellent ideas. I personally have never used oil pastels, and it's because of this sticky, gooey, glumpy consistency that you get from them. But if, like I say, if you know what you're doing and you use it on the right surface and what have you, you can get some beautiful artwork with them. In fact, actually, so I just tested the oil pastel there on some mixed media paper. So let me show you. I'm not even going to try it on that velour because that would be crazy. So I'm going to try it on this UART paper and let you see what it looks like on the UART paper, because it's got that sanded consistency. So it definitely takes better on the sanded paper. There's a lot less bloom and gloopiness that comes to the surface on it. Obviously, the grain within the sandpaper is holding the pigment and the oil binding a lot better. But there you go. If you can see there, the green one there is the oil pastel, and the others are just the ordinary dry pastel, soft pastel. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is the pan pastels. I'll show you how they kind of take onto the papers as well, and then I'll do a couple of pastel pencils and show you the difference between those as well. I think the pan pastels are quite a new thing, but they've really taken off. I'm sure a lot of people here know Jason, the wildlife pastel artist. His surname escapes me right now. Welsh guy. I can't. Can anybody? Nancy, you know who I'm talking about? Jason, the wildlife pastel artist, the Welsh guy. Anyway, if you go across and watch him, he's used a lot of pan pastels. In actual fact, I think he has a little set where he was able to come up with select the colours that he wanted. So let me see if I can get all of this in and show you what this looks like. Okay. Alright, so like I was saying earlier on, these pan pastels are like makeup trays. And not that I wear a lot of makeup, but let me see what colour I can use. So if I use this bright yellow one, so all you would do is you would take one of these little applicators with the sponge on it, pick up the pigment by just doing circular motions, and actually if you wanted to create different colours, you can, or different tones or whatever, you can actually mix by going from tray to tray, or you can do it on the paper. It's entirely up to you how you do it. Jason Morgan, that's the guy. If you go across to Jason Morgan's website, he is an absolutely outstanding wildlife pastel artist. He uses a lot of pan pastels as well, and his work is just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. But anyway, so I've just taken a large amount of the pan pastel, and this paper here is the Pastelmat. So if you see there, you would just keep applying, rubbing in whatever you need. And then you would just add your colours and just blend it accordingly. Let me see if I can do a little bit of a blend here. These pan pastels are excellent for like doing backgrounds, big areas and things like that. But with the different type of applicators that pan pastel have come out with now for like the likes of this and so many other ones, they've got these like big soft sponges here that you can use as well for applying onto much larger areas, or you can just use these little triangle sponges as well. I think this one's probably a little bit dirty, but if you just get one of those, it just allows you to fill in the area that you want. So let me move on quickly here. So that is the Pastelmat. This is the Aliona Nicholson Lux archival paper. This again is a little bit like a sanded surface, and so obviously because of the coarseness of the surface, it grips hold of the pigment much better, but then that means that spreading it and moving it about becomes a little bit harder than on a smoother surface. So that's the Lux archival. This is the UART 280. So this is the really coarse surface, and you can see there that the pigment, it doesn't go very far in terms of like spreading it and stuff. You would need to definitely put a lot of layers on there, and you would have to be quite. This is the UART 800, so it's still this sanded surface, but it's not as coarse as the 280. So you can see there instantly, I can move this about a lot better. And so you would just need to check your grades, what you wanted. This is the Ingres paper. This is the one that Rebecca was saying that she sometimes uses, or more often than not uses, the backside. But again, it's a much smoother surface. But you can see that by how I'm able to move this pigment about the page a lot better. But you can still see the texture of the paper underneath, and that's why Rebecca was saying that she uses the backside, which is okay. So the backside. And just show you a little bit of how this would look on the back side of this paper, of this Ingres paper. Make sure I'm in. Yeah, that's much better in terms of that like that ribbed texture that you get on the other side of it. Much easier to move about. And then the next one is the Velour. Now, although Emma, the pastel artist that I know who uses this paper a lot is a lady called Emma Colbert. She's another fantastic pastel artist. She uses this velour, which is kind of like a velvet texture. And again, she has just recently started using pan pastels on her work, and she was really impressed with the way that she was able to apply the pastel, the strength of the pigment, and how it worked on this velour. And I think the thing with the velour is a little bit like the sanded paper, is that you can't really move it about that much. So you can see here I'm really getting a lot of pigment on there, and it doesn't really go that far in comparison to the way some of the others went on the smoother surfaces. I mean, I think this paper works better with the likes of the soft pastels that I showed earlier on. And then the next paper is the Strathmore mixed media. So again, I'm just going to use this yellow on this pan pastel here and just apply it to this mixed media, this Strathmore mixed media, and you can see, wow, obviously it's all very well and good me saying, right, okay, this is a smooth surface so I can move it about a lot, but when it comes to the likes of layering, which you're using pastels, you're going to do a lot of layering. The likes of the sanded paper, the velour, and the Pastelmat is definitely going to be much more beneficial because it's going to hold on to a lot more layers of pigment, as opposed to these smoother papers like the mixed media, where they may not hold as much layers as what you might want. So that's the pan pastels and how they reacted on the various different papers. Now before I move into the pencils, I just wanted to show you this. So let me move these out of the way a second. Oh, I'll just keep it there. Okay, so I wanted to show you this. This is something I've seen. I can't remember where I've seen it, but I picked it up and I bought it, and I think it's actually really quite nifty. And I think for pastel artists, it's going to be really good as well. Let me just check the thing. Hi Linda. Linda's just asked her if do pencils go over well on pan pastels. Are you talking about just ordinary coloured pencils? Because I'm going to get to that bit in a second. But yes, for the most part, a lot of pastel artists, when they're doing their pieces, they can come back in with the likes of Faber-Castell Polychromos or Luminance pencils. I think I might be right in saying that for the most part, if you've got a pastel piece and you want to put down coloured pencil, I think the likes of the Faber-Castell Polychromos is much more preferred because of its oil consistency. I think I'm right in saying that. But you do have pastel pencils as well, which you can go in and do all the same stuff that you would do with coloured pencils, still get that accuracy. And I'm going to go over the pastel pencils now in any case. So anyway, back to this little thing. So it's actually a clip. So you would clip it on your board to the paper that you're using, just like that. So you would maybe get two of them or one, whatever. But it has this. This is like a metal grater, and whenever because pastel pencils don't typically sharpen that well, and you've got to use a blade. And when if you're like me and you're using a blade, you hack the hell out of the pencil, and you don't really get a point. So you can either use those little blocks of sandpaper or this little thing. And what you do is you just run your pencil over it, create the point, and this is washable because it's kind of like tin, or like a metal surface or a tin surface. So let me try and get a pencil that's not very well sharpened. Okay, I'll try this one. So this is like a new Carbothello, Velour Carbothello. So all you would do is you would just get the little grater and create a point with it. And like I say, this is a washable surface, so once you've finished with it, you can just run it under the tap and it gets rid of any pigment that's stuck in between the grater. So there you go. So you can see it's, I mean, like I've only spent a couple of seconds there, but you can see it's created a nice point. And the really good thing about it is the pigments go down here into this little, so obviously if it's on your board holding your paper, the pigment dust will go down in here, and you can either bin it so it's not all over the place, or reuse it. If obviously you're using one color in a pencil and you're using it a lot and you're having to sharpen it, you can collect that dust that's down there and then just reuse it on your work, which I guess, you know, because these things are so expensive, it's quite nice to be able to do that. Okay, so the various different pastel pencils that we are, so we'll get into this, the pastel pencils now. So alright, okay, so there's lots of different pastel pencils that are out there, I think, and they all have their own kind of unique abilities and things like that, and I'm going to show you them all on these papers. Let me just move them out of the way here for a second first. Okay, so I think probably one of the better known pencils at the minute is the Stabilo Carbothello. A lot of pastel artists use these. They're kind of like, they're very chalky, very dry, and they're really nice for detail. They come in a set of 60. 60 is the highest number that you can get in these. They're open stock as well, so you can purchase them open stock. They can be a little bit pricey. The 60 set, I think, normally runs about £60, but again, I have my own individual review of these, which I'll have a link for down below, and that gives you all the prices and links and what have you. But a 60 set is the biggest set that you can get with the Carbothello. Now, another brand that's really popular is the Faber-Castell Pip pastel pens. These are really nice and strong. in terms of the pigment strength. Again, they come in as the biggest set they come in is 60. They're really nice looking pencils as well. They're kind of like all wood grain, and then the pigment identifier is on the top here, quite small. Whereas with the Stabilo, the barrel is the pigment indicator. But again, the Faber-Castell Pip Pastel pencils are really, really popular. Really good pencils, and for the most part they actually sharpen really quite well also. Derwent have a really nice range of pastel pencils as well. I think the biggest set Derwent do is 72. So they have a really nice range of colours. Again, they're not as with the Faber-Castell Pip Pastel. I would describe them as definitely much softer than the Carbothello, and I would say that the Derwent pastel pencils are maybe similar to the Faber-Castell, maybe a little bit harder. But again, their pigment strength is really nice, and they work really well. The next pencils are the Koh-I-Noor soft pastel pencils. The biggest set they come in is 48. I wouldn't say that they're artist grade. There is a light fast rating on all of these, by the way. Light fast is just as important with pastels as it is with colored pencils. Obviously, if you're not doing like a commission for somebody or something like that, then the light fast details on pencils may not be an issue for you. But if it's something that you're looking to get into later on down the line, then it would be a good idea to consider light fast pencils whenever you are purchasing the set. I forgot to say that with the Faber-Castell Pip Pastel and the Derwent Pastel pencils, they all come open stock as well. The Koh-I-Noor pastels, they can also be purchased open stock, but like I said, they only come, the biggest set they have is 48. And then finally is the Conte pastel pencils. These are really nice and thick, chunky pastel pencils. I enjoy using these. I think the biggest set they come in is 48, I think. I think it's 48. I've got a review of these over on the Art Gear Guide. I'll have a link for that down below if you want to go across and see the individual links. And of course, I have the Caran d'Ache pastel pencils as well. Sorry guys, I forgot to get them out. Okay, so the Caran d'Ache pastel pencils. Again, they're a really nice chunky pencil. Highly pigmented. This is a 72 set, but I think there's something like 82 or 84 colours in total with the pastel pencils. Somebody can correct me there, I'm sure, if I'm wrong. Like I say, this is a 72 set, but I'm nearly sure they have more than that. If you get the wooden box set, I think the wooden box set is 84 pigments. But they do come open stock as well, and they're highly pigmented. So, again, with I've only found with a couple of these pencils that they're a little bit scratchy, but I think that's the case with all pastel pencils. You can pick up a pencil and it might have a little bit of grit in it or something like that, but it's just one of those things. It's not something that pastel artists enjoy coming across. So okay, so this is the Lux Archival. Pastel paper. Or sorry, not pastel paper, the Lux Archival. And I'm just going to add a couple of these pencils to this paper just to let you see what it looks like. And I will also do a little bit of testing on top of other pastels, to like the pan pastels, to show you that you can add it. So this is the Caran d'Ache green, and you can see there I'm only putting very, very light pressure on there, and the pigment's really, really strong. The next is the Koh-I-Noor pastel pencil. Again, a very light application, and you can definitely tell the difference in terms of the pigment strength between the Koh-I-Noor and the Caran d'Ache pastel. Next is the Conte. Again, another really nice chunky pencil. I'll just put a light application down here. You can hear that, obviously, you can hear the surface of that paper scratching with the pencils. Obviously, the pencils, like I was saying earlier on, they have a lot more binder in them than say the hard pastel or the soft pastel, and that's so that they can withstand the likes of sharpening, that type of thing. The next is the Carbothello. Now, like I say, a lot of pastel artists use these. Not as pigmented as the Caran d'Ache or the Conte. They are much harder pencil. I think they're, in actual fact, I think Stabilo call them chalky. They refer to them as chalky. The next one is the Derwent pastel pencil. That's in my mind, that's very similar to the Stabilo Carbothello as well. And there's also a pastel pencil called from Cretacolor, which I haven't used, but I know Jason Morgan uses them, and he thinks they're very, like, their core is really hard. So this is the Pit Pastels from Faber-Castell. Again, very, very light touch, but you can see there that the pigment strength is much stronger. So I would say with the Faber-Castell and the Conte pastel pencils, these two here, I would say they're really quite similar. The Derwent and the Carbothello are quite similar. The Koh-I-Noor is, I would say, the least pigmented of all of them. And then obviously you've got the Caran d'Ache pastel pencil here. Now, the yellow here is pan pastel. So somebody was asking there, can you put pastel pencils on top of the pan pastel? So you can see there that adding more layers to it or drawing or anything like that works fine. But don't forget, this is on the Lux Archival paper. The Pastelmat, sorry, let me just turn that round actually so I've got a bit more space. Okay, so the Pastelmat, which a lot of pastel artists use, if we do the Faber-Castell on here, you can see yourself, that's a light application, and you can see yourself from the texture of that, and you look at the results here from the Deluxe Archival, which is like a sanded paper, the difference on how the sanded paper kind of grips hold of that pigment, as opposed to the Pastelmat, which does grip hold of it. It does allow you to put an awful lot of layers down as well, but it just, the sanded paper obviously comes in a little handier. So this is the, oh, I should have used a different color for those. Okay, so this is the Carbothello. The Derwent. I think you can even hear that the Derwent and the Carbothello are quite similar. The Caran d'Ache. This is definitely a much softer core, a much softer. So, and by that, you can automatically tell that there's much more pigment as opposed to binder in there, because you can hear the scratchiness of the Derwent and the Carbothello when I was using those. This is the Koh-I-Noor, and again, not quite as scratchy as the others, but not nearly as pigmented either. And then the Conte. Again, you can hear that scratchiness there on the Pastelmat. Let me just check back into the chat. Yeah, unfortunately, I've only got the 24 set of the Faber-Castell Pip Pastels, but if somebody wanted like a really nice artist quality set of pastel pencils, I would definitely recommend the Faber-Castell Pip Pastels. I was just lucky that I was able to get the Caran d'Ache pastel pencils, but the color range in these and the pigment strength in the Caran d'Ache pastel pencils is just amazing. Anybody else that I've seen using these, in fact, the review that I have of these, I did a landscape drawn with the Caran d'Ache pastel pencils, and it was probably one of my better drawings that I've ever done with pastels. I really enjoyed it, and it looked really nice at the end as well. I have a speed drawing of it if you wanted to go across and watch it and see it. I don't have it here with me. I forgot to get it out to show. So the next paper that we have is the, I might need to zoom out a little bit for this one. Okay, so the next paper we have is this Ingres paper. So again, I'll start off with the Caran d'Ache. Let me see here. So again, I'm just going to put like a light layer here. I'll zoom in a second. In fact, actually, I'll zoom in now. You'll be able to see the texture a little bit better. So that one there is the Caran d'Ache. That's just a light application and then a heavy application. After that, we've got the Conte. And again, you can hear, you can definitely hear the hardness of the cores. So that's the Conte. And then this is the Caran d'Ache. After that is the Koh-I-Noor. And when you consider the price point of the Koh-I-Noor, they're a really nice pastel pencil. My only gripe is that there's only 48 in the set. Faber-Castell Pip Pastel, again, really strong pigment, really nice. Quite a soft pastel pencil as well. Certainly not as scratchy as the Carbothello. So that was the Faber-Castell Pip Pastel. This is the Carbothello, and again you can see that dry chalkiness. And then the Derwent. So again, you can. I'm hoping that the mic is picking the sounds up here, but you can definitely hear the difference in the when they are on the paper, the dryness and stuff like that, or the softness or the hardness of the cores. And again, let me just push this down a little bit. Okay, so this is the pan pastel application that I put down earlier on, and with now this is, I think this is probably more to do with the paper and the pencil. Let me try the Caran d'Ache pencil. See, I'm not able to put any pigment on top of that. Oh, the Conte pastel pencil. I can layer pigment on top of with the Conte, but with the Derwent and the Caran d'Ache I couldn't. Let me see what the Faber-Castell. No. I don't know why that is. Anyway, with the Conte pastel pencil, I was able to layer on top of that, but that's the Ingres paper there. And then this is the Velour paper. So again, I've never used this before. So we'll start off again with the Caran d'Ache pastel pencil. Hang on, sorry, I didn't realize it was out of shot there. Actually, I'll come up a little closer here. That's really odd because okay. So when I put down a light layer, it doesn't seem to really take to it that well. But obviously, when I put pressure down and put on a heavier application, that's okay. That's the Caran d'Ache pastel pencil. So far not that great with pencils. This is the Conte. Right, so that's a light application and then a heavier application. So the Conte pastel pencil works really well there. Faber-Castell Pip pastel pen. So that works really well. The Carbothello. Actually, yeah, I'll use this blue. The Carbothello. I mean, like, they're quite heavy applications. I'm not able to do things very, very lightly with this paper. Um, the Koh-I-Noor, and then the Derwent. Wow. Let me try a different Derwent. Okay, so the Derwent doesn't seem to really work well on that velour paper. For some reason the Caran d'Ache pastel pencil didn't work that great either. Whereas the Conte, the Pip Pastel, the Carbothello, and the Koh-I-Noor, they seem to all work much better than the Caran d'Ache and the Derwent as well. The velour paper is definitely really, really nice, really soft, gives you really soft edges and stuff like that for soft pastels. I think for like detail and what have you, I think someone like me would struggle. But then again, you look at someone like Emma Colbert and she creates absolutely gorgeous, detailed pastel work, and she uses this paper as well. So I'm just gonna. So this was the pan pastel. So I'm just gonna try some layering on top. So again, nothing really from the Caran d'Ache. This is the Conte. Again, the Conte works really nice. It would appear so far the Conte pastel pencils, they just seem to work on everything and anything. The Carbothello, again, not very well at all. That's odd. The Faber-Castell Pip Pastel, you get a little bit, but not much. The Koh-I-Noor, yeah, that works quite well. And the Derwent, that's crazy. Okay, so the Conte and the Koh-I-Noor, and this really just goes to prove, or not prove, but demonstrate what I've been saying all along in with all my reviews and what have you. When I first started out doing reviews for coloured pencils and all the rest of it, I would demonstrate them and try them on one type of paper and not really think that much of it. It wasn't until I got about 6 or 7 months into doing reviews that I realised that the type of pencil that you're using, or watercolour paint or whatever, very, very much depends on the paper, and the paper just transforms the paper, or the surface that you're using transforms the medium completely. So in the case of like the Derwent Artist pencils, the Derwent Artist colour pencils, I know a lot of people don't like those because they're very, very they're very hard, they're not very pigmented, and so a lot of people don't really get on that well with them. But if you use those on, say, something like the Pastelmat or the Lux Archival paper, those pencils are immediately transformed into highly pigmented, really layer well, good pencils that will enable you to create something really lovely. And it in my opinion, there's no such thing as a bad art product, especially when you're talking about student grade and artist grade, and possibly even kids grades. Obviously, you get those sets, those sets that we've been guilty of buying for kids at Christmas, like the 120 art set, and it costs £5, and nothing in it. There's no pigment in anything. Obviously they are. Is everything okay?
Yeah, you just put the heat on the freeze.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. But it just goes to show you that the surface and stuff like that is just so important. But each surface, as you can see here, reacts differently to each pencil or soft pastel, whatever it is that you're using. I think I've pretty much covered everything that I had planned to talk about, but obviously I'm going to stick around a little bit for questions and things like that. What I will do is I'm going to show you about some pastel pencils, and then I'm going to come back onto the book that I was talking about when I started out. Okay, so with pastel pencils, so if we take this Faber-Castell, let me just move this over here. If we take this Faber-Castell pastel pencil, it's new, so it's got that little stumpy tip thing. Let me see, make sure I'm in frame. Okay, so this is an M&R little handheld sharpener, and I change the blades on this really quite regularly, and when you change the blades it's really super sharp. I don't personally use this type of sharpener or like the Caran d'Ache hand crank sharpener that I have to sharpen pastel pencils. I just think they're more hassle than they're worth. I know a lot of people can get good results with them, but I just see it's kind of spinning already, and that's as good as it's going to get, really. And then obviously you would use like I haven't got my sanding block. You would use like a little sanding block or something like this to refine the point that you got. But I think I've already demonstrated this on the review, but this is the Caran d'Ache pastel sharpener, or scraper they call it. And I think this was £12 or something like that. But with this you can get a really nice sharp pastel pencil, and you're not going to be running into the problem where every time you sharpen it, it creates like it shatters or it breaks, and then you've got to start sharpening it again and all the rest of it. A lot of people just use ordinary blades, or sometimes the little craft knives, which are really good as well, especially once you get a new blade and it's really super sharp. But when I first started using this one from Caran d'Ache, I found it a little bit awkward, and I don't know, and I think looking on it now, back then I was using it wrong. I don't think I was using it right. But now that I've kind of got the hang of it, I actually enjoy using it, and sometimes I can get decent results with it. For me personally, this is the only negative side of pastel pencils. But the positive side of pastel pencils is I know a lot of people who just cannot stand the texture of pastels on their hands or anything like that. So obviously pastel work can be quite messy, and a lot of pastel artists will use their fingers to smudge in the pigment, that type of thing. Or even if you're using the sponge applicators, it can still be a messy situation. And not only that, a lot of people who have got respiratory issues like asthma or something like that. I know that a lot of pastel dust can affect it can affect their breathing, which obviously is not a good thing. But I think with pastel pencils, there's a lot less mess. And again, it all comes down to these amazing pastel artists that are on YouTube or write books like Rebecca, like Jason Morgan, or Will from Unmasked Art, Emma Colbert, and Colin Bradley. All these amazing pastel artists, which have all got their own different, and Gail Sibley as well. She's another amazing pastel artist. There's loads of them out there where you can go and pick up all the different tips and tricks and techniques that they use, and see which one is best for you. So, and then I would use this to refine the point on that. And I'm just kind of spinning that round as I'm sharpening it to a point. And there you go. It's not what we would get from like a colored pencil, but it's still a point, and it's still something that you could definitely use if you needed a little bit of detail, like if you were doing a portraiture and you needed to do something on an eye. It's definitely something. Now, another thing that I was talking about earlier on about pastels and the benefits of pastels is the ability to do light over dark. So okay, sorry about this swapping and changing. So with this pastel mat, I've got a light pencil here. It's a Caran d'Ache pencil, and you can see that I can create that light over the dark, which for coloured pencil artists it's a nightmare for us to try and create things like that. We've got to either work around it, like if you've got a highlight in an eye, you either work around it and let the page show through, or like I said earlier on, you use something that's non-archival, like a Jelly Roll pen or something like that. Or if you're lucky, you've got something really white, an opaque that is archival, and you can use it. I know there's quite a lot of things out there now to help colour pencil artists, but this is something that's really appealing to pastel art as well. This is the Lux archival paper, and again, so with the blue one there, because that's probably the darkest, again I can create this light over dark with the red there as well. So you can see there that if you're a coloured pencil artist, you spend your entire time planning things out, making sure that the highlights, or you plan out the highlights, that type of thing. And so when you start using pastel, especially pastel pencils and things like that, if you're coming from coloured pencils and going straight into pastel pencils, it's a similar format, so it's not too hard to grasp. But it's just this light and dark thing that I found myself, leaving little spaces for highlights when I didn't need to, when I was using pastels in color. So that's another really excellent part of pastel pencils or anything pastel. Um, so I've covered nearly everything. Like I said, I'm coming to the end now. But what I wanted to do is, at the beginning, I showed this book. I got it just before Christmas, I think it was, maybe a little bit more than that, further back than that. And I will be bringing out a review of this book next week. So you'll be able to see the full review. But Rebecca's actually in the chat here, and I'm sure a lot of you already know her. And as the title says, Pastels for the Absolute Beginner. This book goes through everything. I don't want to show you too much, obviously, because you need to buy the book, really. Support the artist. So at the beginning, Rebecca goes through everything that you need to know about getting started with pastels. So, like, the difference between soft pastel, hard pastel pencils, everything. That explains everything. All the different papers. I've gone through some of them here, but Rebecca puts down a really excellent write-up about them. Different tools and things like that you can use. And then all the way through the book, she explains different techniques that you can use with different pastels and what have you, hatching, that type of thing. Goes through like landscape, portraiture, a little bit of portraiture, a little bit of animals, and Rebecca's work in any case is phenomenal. It's her artwork speaks for itself. But this book, if you are interested in pastels and you really want to get into it, this book is a fantastic place to start. Find out all the different pastels that are available to you and the different papers that are available, and so you'll not make the same mistakes that I made, which was buying the wrong paper. I tried pastels on printer paper and couldn't understand why I wasn't getting the results that I was when I was watching pastel artists on YouTube and stuff like that. So this is an absolutely fantastic book. There is a link down below where you can go across to purchase this book if you want. But like I say, I'm coming out with a review next week of it. So if you want to wait for the review, fine. If not, go ahead and buy it. I highly recommend it. It is fantastic. Right, I think that's it, guys. I think I've rambled on way long enough here, and I'm sorry for that interruption in the middle. I have no idea what happened. Yeah, and Rebecca's website as well. I'll have a link to Rebecca's website because Rebecca does has like classes and loads of different things over there where you can learn even more about pastels. So there'll be a link down below to Rebecca's website. Please go across, check it out, see all the stuff that is on offer there. And if like I say, if you're interested in pastels, you couldn't go to a better place to learn about them. You're more than welcome, Rebecca. Thank you. Let me just roll back on the chat here and see if I've missed anything. yeah. Working with pastels, I mean, like I've not worked with oil paints or acrylic paints or anything like that, but I've watched artists do it, and I've seen obviously that you can do light over dark, and I think that's one of the fantastic things about pastels, the fact that you can just, I think pastel art is a lot more forgiving than say colored pencils. You can change things a lot easier, providing you're doing light layers and you're building up. Um, like where's my? Oh, there it is. So whenever you have put down your layers and stuff like that of your pastels, you can actually lift up quite a bit of it with your kneaded eraser. So it really, and this is on that Lux Archival, so you can see there how much I'm able to lift up of it, and I'm not damaging the tooth of the paper or the grain of the paper, whatever you want to call it, and I'm almost able to get that back to paper, which makes the medium incredibly forgiving, and you can play about with it a lot more, like the fact that you can do light over dark, that type of thing. It's just, I personally think it's a wonderful medium. I would love to be able to create art with it like I can with markers and coloured pencils, say, for argument's sake. But that's just going to come with practice, I guess. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap this up now. I just want to say thank you so much for everybody coming into the chat and stuff and supporting me. Sue and Nancy, thank you so much for helping me answer questions and making sure people felt welcome coming into the chat. I knew that tonight I wouldn't be able to answer a lot of questions because I had a lot planned out that I wanted to get through. So thanks to the both of you. And for everybody coming through, and Rebecca as well, thank you so much for coming in on the chat tonight. I was really pleased that you were able to make it. Thanks very much. Like I say, I'll have a link for Rebecca's website and where you can get the book and stuff like that in the links down below. Please go across and check out all her stuff. It's definitely worth the while. Okay, guys. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you all again next time. Don't forget, make sure you are all keeping safe and staying well in this uncertain time. Okay, guys, thanks very much. See you all again soon. Thanks. Bye.